Welcome, everyone, to the Mythweaver's Respite. I am your wonderful barkeep and host for the evening. Tonight, we have once again another wonderful story to be told, and of course, we're going to start that off in their own world. But before we do that, and before we get any farther in this, I always want to make sure that we have our guests kind of give them their chance to shine. So before we go any farther, I'm just going to have TJ say a couple words just to tell us who he is, where he's from, and then we'll get right into our adventure.
Hi guys, I'm TJ. I DM for and GM, Game Master for Dices of Ages, and a couple of other things that they do there. We run a couple constituent campaigns that are simultaneous, run at the same time in the same homebrew world together. So we have a bunch of things that we stream together of our creation that we created together, and we have oh my goodness, we have a couple channels up there and everything like that. What we try to do is make it very homebrew and have a good time while we're at the table. I like to go to, well, I'm from Colorado. Well, I used to be a New Yorker. I grew up all on the East Coast, but now I'm from Colorado here. We like to go to cons and do our thing. And the whole Dice of Ages thing kind of started as a project with a bunch of us just like, okay, cool, new friends, let's, new place, let's go into the basement and let's all play a game. And then a bunch of my other friends, because I was keeping in contact with my friends in New York, and they were like, dude, this is some good stuff and everything. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. No, really, you should make IP out of it or do something. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then we slowly started like dumping. We go like, okay, we'll get a webcam. Okay, we'll get a microphone. We'll make it a podcast or something stupid. We'll put it in the middle of the table. And we just started from there. And then it just kind of snowballed into just dropping way too much money on podcast sound equipment and professional 4K webcams and lights and everything where there's just, it's like a whole little studio that we now call the Lore Lounge in our basement.
Nice.
That we just stream out of, and it's great. We love it. We like to go to things like Genghis Con in Colorado. If you guys are ever there, hit us up. We like to work with, I know James works with GUI Cube. We've done some things with them before. So yeah, it's always a good time. So check us out.
Yeah, definitely. So make sure you look in the chat room. There's going to be a place where you can check out their link tree, go to all their stuff, give them some follows, give them some love here from the Tavern. All right. So for brand new players, brand new people, they're just starting to show up. This works very simple. We're going to start in their world. During their adventure, they're going to find a spot where they go through a doorway. When they go through the doorway, they enter some place called the Mythweaver's Respite. It is a tavern that has interdimensional abilities and shows up when it needs to be there. At that point, you'll meet the barkeep, who's a wonderfully handsome young man. No, actually, he's an overlarge dwarf, which is what I call myself because, that's all I like to be. And he will be the kind of the lead to play off of the player tonight. The player is not going to reveal their character nor anything about their character until they walk through the threshold of the inn. So, TJ, where are we starting this evening?
Cool. So no descriptions of what the character does or looks like, but just the surrounding area?
Yes.
Okay, that's going to be hard. Okay.
You got this.
I think we have one of those never-ending story camera through the clouds thing as it comes through the stratosphere and starts to swoop down on some rolling hills. If you remember those kind of Irish long grass over the rolling hills that looks like hair because it's so matted down and so long and so thin and so thick, that is slowly bustling in the breeze that is being buffeted from the sheer cliffs that go out onto some type of precipice that just drops down of rock as it licks. You hear the splashing brackish water lick up against the rocks, and you can smell the salt in the air as the camera gets closer and closer to the grass before it feels like a presence is known there. The air is whipping. You can feel, if you were there, your clothes would be whipping and creating the sound of leather snapping in the wind. The air is fresh, brackish, salty, beautiful, wonderful, revitalizing, but the overcast sky of these clouds in midday during spring is confusing. It's no rain. There's no sundogs. There's no atmospheric phenomena that give you any type of joy, rejoice. It's almost as the weather itself, the atmosphere, the environment is responding to the presence of just something just absolutely tragic, sad. There is a depression in part of the grass that looks bare, worn, perhaps, like you can see some stone and dirt and sand coming through. There is evidence of at least it being tread, but there's no evidence of a trail coming to it. There's no evidence of something climbing up from the rocks and then getting to that point and then moving around and laying down. There's no evidence of it's just there on its own. And it's in a shape. It's in a shape of what looks like almost like two logs that's been kind of depressed down into the earth, but it's not, but there are no logs. As the camera starts to move down into that depression and create a different type of dimension, so you can get an idea as to just how deep this depression is, which is about like maybe perhaps 6 inches. It's interesting because it looks like gestalt space, as if the greenery and flora and vines and other dirt and moss has started to grow around it as though they were like invisible logs, but they're no longer there. Almost as if it started to create like a build an algae and moss around something, and then that thing was like carefully removed to leave the abscess of a kind of archway around this. So there is a shape of something, and the shape is, the more you look at it, starts to look less like logs and more organic. Perhaps the shape of the lower part of a body, a kneeling body, knees that then go into thighs. You can see that the way the vines and the roots of the vines and the moss actually move through, they correspond to the creases and what could have been some type of fabric. And then the camera finally settles within this archway, this moss and this vines below you. And from the other specks of light and sky that you can see through these protrusions and parts of scattered skylight, because it's not whole, it's pieced. You can see off to the precipice, and in the precipice, what looks like ruins, perhaps an old lighthouse or watch house, to be aware of the fog, be aware of ships coming in, that has long since fallen off the cliff due to erosion. And all that remains there now is a few planks of wood and a tilted threshold, only 3 parts of the wood just standing there. And there is what looks like a silhouette of an individual, even though there is barely any sun in the sky. It's not dark. The ambient light is still midday, still spring. And the individual is tall, but can't really make out too much else. Leans up against the one piece of timber that's still sticking up, maybe a not 90-degree angle, but tilted about another maybe 11 degrees, and it creaks. You can even hear the creak from over here, over the crashing of the waves and the whipping of the wind. And it's surprising that it doesn't just fall. All of it just falls. And they take a step as they gaze down over the cliff. And they hold on, and you see fingers dig into the framework of the door. As it crumbles in their grasp, they let their hand drop, and they lean forward.
They're leaning forward over the precipice.
Through this ruined threshold.
Through the ruined threshold. All right. So as we lean over the ruined threshold, and the threshold is it sounds like it's almost like a trap door or like a
No, like it would be like a wooden standing door that's the door frame is all that's left of whatever building would have been there, and only like 3 pieces of wood are actually like part of one side and a little bit over, and it's crumbled and rotten, but the other part of the building has fallen because of erosion and cliff piece, so that's all it's left, just on the edge of the cliff.
Okay. And you said this was like a lighthouse.
It could have been. It's hard to tell. I would say what's left is has maybe the slightest stone foundation, but mostly what's standing that created the threshold is wood, which is surprising that it's still there, which is why it deteriorated so quickly with even the lightest touch.
And what would make this character be at this point?
This character is, for the most part, not making any sound. From the perspective of the viewer, this character probably knows whoever is watching is there and doesn't care. It's full dissociation, willing to do what needs to be done or what they think needs to be done. There is defeat. Utter defeat, utter lack of motivation, lack of going on. What's the point?
Okay. And inside this, and gonna kind of warp this a little bit so that we have a place where the inn can be, appear.
Sure.
As this character is holding on to what seems to be the last threads of life, their mind starting to unwind to the point where nothing really matters anymore. It's what it sounds to me. And you push through and you find the ruins of flooring of this building, and the walls barely holding up the few pieces of rock that are around it. And you push across the ground a little bit, and you notice a smuggler's cove, a small trapdoor hatch. Something that could be opened.
I think as they were leaning forward, hoping that the momentum would take them, they probably skitter a stone that makes a clang on some metal that lets them notice something. And normally they wouldn't care, but with that clang, something moves, and there's light, and there's the smell of something. Something that's still here, something that has still stood this test of time, something that remains even though the ravages of time and nature itself has done their worst. And there's just like this fleeting moment of, I don't want to say hope, but like curiosity edged with perhaps we are not so different. You and I, you trapdoor hatch.
You trapdoor hatch. The being of unknown origin yet.
I think their hair continues to whip and get in their face. They have this long hair and this braid that, even though it's in like this thick braid, it kind of whips around and smacks them in the face a couple times, and they ignore it as they kind of reach down and move the dust out of the way and some of the rubble and the rocks. It's a rusted handle, but there's light coming through the cracks. And it's like really curious because where could this possibly lead to? Because this is a precipice, very like Wile E. Coyote, like over, like there's nothing below this.
Yeah, there's nothing below us.
But stranger things have happened. So they pull.
Okay. And as you pull, normally entering the tavern is a very relaxing and enjoyable moment. But when gravity likes to fight back, this is not going to be as enjoyable as normally. As you pull open,
tumbled.
You kind of roll the thing open, and you see just down. You see darkness. But as you step through, it's as if things have kind of shifted. So you're coming in through what seems to be a chimney and straight down into a wooden just thud.
Yeah, like gravity shifted 90 degrees.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And you hit
That's
the ground.
exactly what I had in my head too. So
And first thing you can feel is a shift in temperature. The temperature jumps probably about 20 degrees. You're thinking a nice warm 70, 75. The next thing that catches you is the light that you saw through the glimpses of the pieces of wood. Now noticing that they're not just, it's not a natural light, but rather small, unattached lanterns, almost like hot air balloons,
orbs,
just kind of floating throughout the tavern itself. The walls are covered in stone with just framework of wood around it. A deep and long oak bar sits at the back end. And the immediately thing that catches your eye is the name of the bar that sits as the giant sign sits back there in amazing, in like this almost calligraphic writing. And it says Mythweaver's Respite. The Tavern of Tales. Everything costs a story. Nobody goes home without one.
I think I stumble, or they stumble. I guess we're first person now.
Yep.
I believe I stumble and I catch myself, but I don't put a lot of effort into it. So I probably kind of collapse partially on my side with just my hand holding up and let my hair kind of fall into my face. And as I look up, I see the sign and I see the glowing orbs, and it's jarring because right now this doesn't fit my aesthetic, and I'm a little and I'm just a little, I don't think I'm perturbed. I think just at a loss for a moment. But again, stranger things have happened. Do I see anything else?
So
Do I see any other people?
Currently, no. As you kind of look around, you see four sets of tables, four sets of tables, each with four chairs around them. All of them are set as if maybe somebody is coming. They've got dinnerware already placed. Everything. The chairs
Does it
themselves
smell like freshly cooked food.
It does. As soon as you kind of you start to smell freshly cooked food. You smell what seems to be either pork or beef, something braising in the back. You glance to the right side of the bar. In the back, you can see two double doors that would sway back and forth, and you can figure that this is probably where the kitchen is, and you can see a small amount of smoke coming from the kitchen itself. To the right side, you see a large fireplace that's billowing, though the fire seems to be contained. And the last thing you notice, and this is kind of something that kind of gives you finally your bearing of where you're at and what's going on, is you look behind you, you can now see the door is slightly ajar, but it's behind you. It's not above you. So you're kind of getting your bearing finally and getting that understanding of your placement.
I look back to the door. Is it open or is it closed?
About a quarter of an inch open left.
Is it dark, light?
Dark.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I think I stand up and I'm about to dust myself off, and I don't, and I just let my arms fall to the side. Should I describe what this person looks like at all, or no?
Sure.
Very androgynous, lithe, somewhat tall, but not like what we think of when we think of an elf tall. Just their kind of average height. Their hair kind of matted in this braid at the moment. It's hard because they're genetically predisposed to always have like perfect hair. So as dirty as a elf's hair could be, but still look elegant in a braid. This kind of dirty blonde, wearing this gambeson that's tall, long tailed, beaten, worn, pieces of tuft coming out. This padded armor looks like they haven't bathed in weeks, months, but again, hard to tell. Elf. But their armor, I think, speaks, or what it is they're wearing, whatever. It looks like they came fresh from a battle or a battlefield or some sort of harrowing event in which they had to either defend themselves or defend somebody else or fight something, and they never went home to wash up. Like they never stopped. Their faces long, androgynous, extremely androgynous. Only slight moments of cheekbones. Eyes that are only ever half open. Looks like a twig at the moment, merely skin and bone. The gambeson, that with it being puffed, is probably the only thing that's making them look like they are worthy of standing. Yeah.
As you kind of stumble around, and it seems,
I think I probably move over to the food that smells good out of instinct.
Okay.
But I'm like fighting. There's like a part of me that's like, what's the point? Why should I eat? But there's this other part that's like instinctual. I'm like, hey, that's really good food. You should probably eat. Also, you're really hungry. So I'm probably just having this like inner fight monologue at the moment, and I'm totally lost in thought as I'm just staring at this roast beast or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. So as you're doing that, you kind of don't notice it first, but now, kind of out of the corner of your eye, you see an overlarged gentleman placed both elbows on the table or on the bar in the back, just sitting there, kind of giving you a friendly, stern look. And he goes, "Well, traveler, seems another one has stumbled in here. You look like you could use some food, or at least something."
From the looks of it, you are expecting company. I will no longer impose, and I kind of turn swiftly to go towards the door.
Oh, no, please stop.
Stop.
The company I see and always shows up when it needs to, and it seems you're in the right place at the right time. Sit down, have a bite.
I don't believe anybody's ever told me that. And pardon me if I don't believe it quite myself. I don't think I've ever been at the right place or the right time. But I'll humor you.
I appreciate it.
Very well. Is there something I can do for you then?
He gives this giant grin. You know, this place is much different than most places you'll probably ever go to. I ask for nothing but a story. Coin does not really do much for me, not in a place like this.
Are you from the university? One of the bards?
Nope. Just a humble barkeep that likes
Interesting.
to have a tale. Likes to hear a bunch of them.
Well, I certainly have been around long enough where I have a few of those. Would you mind, perhaps, something to lubricate my vocal cords, if we are to speak at length?
Would you prefer something with a little bit of bite to it, or would you rather just have a nice clean glass of water?
Some warm milk would be wonderful.
See what we have. He heads off back into the kitchen.
I think while he's doing that, I hurriedly like dig into my armor and stuff and make sure that I like you see my hand like dig into my breast, everything, and it's like moving around, and I you see from the bulge there that something was grabbed, and then like they pull their hand back out just to make sure it was still there.
A few minutes passed. You hear a bit of fighting in the back, as if he's trying to tussle something. Hand drop, something crashes in the back, and you're, shit, buddy, let me grab that. And he throws the doors open. And he brings out a glass of milk.
Might you need aid?
Oh no, this was stumbled upon something. I apologize.
No.
Places the warm glass of milk next to you.
Thank you. I think I gingerly put my hand on it and just kind of spin it for a moment. And I think it's the first time in a long time that there's like this kind of just crack of like just the tiniest little smile in the corner, just kind of lost in thought, looking at the milk kind of ripple in the cup. A story, you said. Would you prefer that we start sad or joyful?
You know, I've always thought that letting my patrons tell me the stories that they want to tell me seemed to make the best out of it.
Then I suppose we should start at the beginning. I wasn't always in this sorry state that you see before you. Not that much matters now. I don't even know how long it's been. He was wonderful. I have to admit, he was always singing, writing things down, exaggerating every once in a while, as he would. But we had things that we needed to do. We had a mission to accomplish. We were trusted, although no one would ever admit it, to do something that they believed others wouldn't be capable or willing to do. And Drugan, well, he was just exhaustingly antagonistic. But there we were, this collection of honestly disgusting individuals from both sides of this what seemed to be never-ending quarrel. And the first time I actually saw them for who they were was when I was handed a cup of warm milk. It was the first, I think, altruistic action I had felt since the beginning of the war. Someone from the opposite side, too, a dwarf. Not that I ever cared about those things, but he was so happy. And so was Caliban. It evades me as to why. Entirely eludes my perspective. There we were in the middle of a dying forest, surrounded by what could be the worst wildfire in all, in all of my life. Hearing the screams of, elven forces and warlords trying to intimidate those who still remain in the forest, who run away, and we were there singing and dancing, relishing like a coven in the night of the solstice. And I smiled and we danced, and we didn't let the screams touch our minds. Nothing but intimidation. I felt so free. Freer than I ever did wearing that helm. freer than I ever did wearing those epaulets of honor, of station. It meant nothing. Not after what I saw them do. Not after what I witnessed, everything that we would become. But this is supposed to be the beginning. The joyful part. We weren't always, didn't get along that well so fast. I wouldn't say we were fast friends. I would say Caliban was exhaustingly saccharine. Drugin, again, exhaustingly antagonistic. And the others, well, they came and gone. But the three of us, 2 elves and a dwarf. Now that I think back at it, it's so silly to reduce us to such things, but I remember there was one time where Drugin found the remains of a sentry, a Zek tech, as you would, a construct that had been created, left behind, some sort of infantry or infiltration unit that went forward through the front lines, left behind. Somehow its self-destruct protocol did not initiate. Drugin had the greatest shit-eating grin in his head. He thought we could fix it up and use it to carry our bags and continue on, and I was obviously hesitant to agree, as it would make so much noise, and the whole point of our endeavor was to be quite clandestine. But we let them have the moment, and he did a good job. That was until the bear bit its head off. But I don't think the bear was very happy with its meal. I still think that bear was not actually a bear, but some spiritual druid of that forest that was burned, just angry to get anything that they could. Any claws in, get in there, 2 cents there, 2 punches, however futile it may be. There are other times I remember hard decisions we had to make, people we saved, lives we loved.
Sounds like you've had a very eventful and exciting life.
Exciting, perhaps. I would have wished for perhaps a little less eventful. It was so odd to me that we, other than anger or sadness, although they were always there, we actually felt joy in a war that lasted as long as we could remember. The one thing I knew for sure is that that Caliban and I were not from here. We were the invading force. We were the bad people. Caliban, I don't think, ever wanted to admit it. Not for lack of ego or for too much of ego, but just because if he said it out loud, if he wrote it down in his books that he treasured so much, then it became real. It became real that his family, his friends, his daughter, his mother, his father, were part of that. So we didn't talk about it much.
It seems to me that there's much regret in you and with your friends.
That's the thing. Given another chance, I'm not sure I'd do it any other way. It was the best time of my life I had with them. And I feel so guilty for it because of all those that were suffering around us. I think that's what hurts the most. Well, maybe not the most.
Does the barkeep see you start to kind of drift away as you say that?
Yeah, I don't think that even he is aware, or not the barkeep, but they are aware that they are crying without blinking, as it's just kind of dripping out of their eyes, not even touching their cheek into their glass of milk, as they just kind of give a bit of a 1,000-yard stare.
Normally, the barkeep would have something to say, but instead, he pulls out a small cask. Looks almost like a keg, but only about half the size. He places it on the table, and he pulls out a wooden mug that hooks hooked against his belt, and hitches it, places it, pours the mug, takes a big drink.
Please, no, thank you.
Oh no, I figured you were not one of those type. So this is for myself. Something to calm the nerves a little bit.
I have
Seems
that
we
effect
have
on
a
people.
specific. It's strange. Most people that come here have some sort of regret, some sort of loss, some sort of sadness. You've kind of flipped that on the upside down, if just a little bit. Seems that where all the sadness was, it sits outside of you and your friends.
If I were to take it into me, I believe it would devour me. I'm not sure anything would be left. I have to pretend that I didn't see those faces of those children, the purple glow reflecting in their eyes as I stepped through the veil, and they remained. I'll never. And I mean this. I don't think I will ever redeem, if redemption is even a thing in this world. What does it matter? No matter how hard you try, there will always be a new enemy, a new tragedy, a new crisis, a new fire to be putting out constantly. No matter how many sacrifices you make, no matter how many of your lineage, your line, your friends, your lovers die, make sacrifices, there's always something greater, something dangerous around the corner.
There's always a new tale to tell.
That is a very poetic way of looking at it. But all tales must come to an end. And I have been around for a very long time. And there are times where I wonder why.
Well, can't tell you I know exactly why. But I can tell you one thing. There's a very old wizard that I have spoken with many times in my life. And there's been moments where friends have been lost and choices were made that weren't always the best. And I'd get to that point of not wanting to continue. Why? What's the point? And I'd call upon my friend. And he'd look at me and he'd look me straight in the eye, just as I'm doing to you right now. And he'd tell me this. The world has a way of keeping people that have not finished their tale. There's still more you need to do.
And that's what this is. Way of the universe telling me that my work is not finished.
Or it's telling you the work that you're doing is finished, but you're not. There's more to you. He gifted me this place years ago, many years ago, far before I've lost count.
You remember their name?
I don't. And
I
say
think
that
that's what I fear the most.
Not in a way of cruelty, but in the fact that I don't even know anymore how old I am. But I was given a charge, And my charge was to listen and to guide others on their tale, on their adventure, on their story.
So you have done this to many others.
Cracks a very, I wouldn't say selfish, but almost condescending grin as he starts to look around. And if you follow the eyes as he's looking around, you see now why this place is called what it's called. The stones are not just stone, each one written in it a tale. Some, as you glance past it, of tragedy, others of happiness, others of anger, others of regret. Your tale is your tale. But I can't tell you that your feelings aren't anything that I've not seen or listened to before.
I have 2 questions then. I may have more, but the most pressing one, I believe, is why? Why you? Why did you choose to do this? Why did you take on this burden? Why do you continue to do it? Just for posterity? Who will read this, the next ones? Am I allowed to read these stones?
Of course.
I see.
And your tale will be written in them as well.
Then my other question, which now the eyes start to dart back and forth, the demeanor changes from dread and melancholy and perhaps some maudlin into intrigue, hyperfixation. pull out a scrap of paper and like a piece of sharpened charcoal or something, whatever they happen to have in their gambeson, and they pull it out very, very quickly. And something else flies out of the breast pocket, which looks like this kind of like very polygonal, crystalline type lump of crystal that appears to have I don't want to say like a magenta pink edge to it, just because of how weird glass looks, but it seems to be like more translucent and white and shimmery and kind of blue.
Okay.
Just kind of rolls across the counter, and they stare at it for a moment before they look back down, and then they look at you and they just say, "How?
Oh, what?
How do you do it? How do you move from one place where a tale needs to be told? I assume there are other places that are not here. How do you move to other worlds? How?"
That is a tale yet in the telling. I don't know, because I'm not the one that makes the choice.
There is a great power at work then.
Like threads across the many worlds that have ventured here, tied together by a tale. My door is always open.
Have you ever met anybody twice?
No.
Could you?
If they needed to tell another tale. One that was important.
Have you ever been to the same place, or perhaps slightly different, more than once?
Many times.
You see this, like, he starts to tremble, finally does a double take and grabs the crystal. There was one of the things that I spent far too much time on, that I hoped I didn't do, honestly. It was something that I was given the task of doing, dangerous, something to stop the war. It doesn't matter now. It's all done, it's gone with, but perhaps it doesn't have to be. I succeeded. And he just kind of tosses up the crystal. And it's terrifying. But if there is one place that this is not going to, for lack of a fallacy of stereotype, fall into the wrong hands, it's probably here. This you need to have. You need to hang on to this. This is called a terrazine. You need to. Don't break it. If you break it, I don't know if you are immortal or whatever it is you may be, some sort of entity, it doesn't matter. All I know is that whatever matter it touches, it consumes. It turns into itself. So it's coded right now. It'll be fine. It's very, very special. It's very strong. It's very potent. And it's the only one of its kind that I was able to make. And it's one of the reasons why I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because I can't destroy it. And no matter where I put it, somebody will find it. And that
you give me 1 second, and maybe we can take that burden off your chest. And he walks behind the bar. He grabs a small chest. He brings it out, places it on the table, opens the chest. Inside the chest are an assortment of things, and emblems and markings, scripts, gems, all with unique connections to their owner.
I suppose this makes sense, par for the course. And you watch over these items, I assume?
I do.
They are gifts or payments?
Oh, no. No payment. Only gifts. Freely given.
I must warn you, this gift may be more of a curse than a gift. I don't know if it's possible to get where you are by people who don't need to tell a tale, but do you still want this?
If it's something that will remove a little bit of this burden from you, and you'll be able to continue your life and your stories, then yes.
That's very kind of you. It's not really my life, a burden that I'm concerned with, but that's very kind. Do you...
For somebody that doesn't know, is not allowed to walk out of this threshold. It's the one problem with this place. Where you come from, I don't understand. I don't know.
You're not allowed to leave. You travel with this place. You are a prisoner?
Nope. Just a barkeep who enjoys his tavern.
Fascinating. I have something else. They reach into this old ratty satchel that is leather so worn that it's becoming threadbare, and they reach in, pull out what looks to be some sort of pink, like a potion in a bottle. If you ever want to have another chat, drink that, and I just show up. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but it's friends and I used it. It's really, really helped save our butts quite a few times. But if you ever need, I understand your thing is altruistic, but now I feel terrible for I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
May I have another glass of milk?
Of course. Before he walks away, he waits for you to place the item of gift you placed in there. He closes it, takes it back behind the bar, walks back into the kitchen, grabs another glass, slowly walks out, calmly. Places it in front of you.
What's this?
Another glass, as you asked.
Right. Of course. Right. There is a different look in their face now, a different demeanor, rather than this hunched, defeated burden. You felt it when the crystal fell out of his hand and into their hand and into the chest. There was this kind of like almost slump, as in you let go of like 30 kilograms of weight that's just been sitting on their shoulders. And they just kind of absent-mindedly, almost with a spring, just kind of pick up the cup and sip it and press it up against and roll it against their lips as they're thinking, their minds darting, their thoughts moving. Now there is purpose, there is something, there is a possibility, there's something going on. The wheels are turning, and they take another sip and they continue to think. And as they do, they get up and they absentmindedly start walking around the room and looking at some of the other stones. And they start taking down. Are there names on the stones?
There's no names.
Just the story.
Stories.
They start taking down as whatever could be identifying, and I think they become very, very frustrated because they realize how ambiguous and a lot of these stories are as far as it comes to like who they may be or exactly what in the description is, and they're looking for that, and they're like, but they take their time with each stone and think. I think every once in a while there's like a chuckle and a sigh. But before long, the cup is empty and it's been discarded onto a table. I believe there's probably some shreds of meat that they seem to be absent-mindedly eating as they're just moving around. Unless you stop them, they'll continue to do that.
He doesn't. He allows you to move. And about a quarter of a way around one of the walls, something very strange catches your glance. The story you just told.
I suppose I should have expected that. Did you? You know, it's probably better I don't ask. Are there any empty stones?
It's strange. As you've glanced around, you haven't noticed any.
Weird. Okay, cool. Awesome. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, he's been sitting at the table with a small tankard, with his small cask, just pouring a glass and watching you kind of scoot around the building, the tavern.
I think at some point after I've like done my due diligence for at least a portion of it, because there's just so much, I come back to the table and I kind of scratch my head with it. Are you familiar with the passage between dimensional planes of existence? Are you familiar with like the continuum? Do you know how it works? Are you familiar with well?
He almost like he glazes over. His understanding of science and intellectuals is very low.
Oh dear.
I mean, the best way to describe this is you're talking to somebody who has ran a tavern for as long as he
Sure.
knows, and it's all he knows anymore.
Right. And it like this individual has just like met a multidimensional being who is like, which is like one of their fields of study, and they're like, what, how are you, what are you, you know? And so they're like,
it's kind of a pull and tug, because you're like, he's not giving me anything.
Sure, yeah. I think I like write runes down. I'm like, are you familiar with this symbol?
But it's just genuine, just nothing.
Nothing. All right. Well, did you ever walk through some sort of like oval gateway or portal, sort of like spinning black and blue that kind of moved as though it was pulled by a lodestone? Ever? No?
Nope. Sorry.
Okay. Have you ever had a guest that came here from one world and then left into another?
I don't know. Would you like to find out?
Yes.
The door's right there.
Is this? Can it be changed? Can we move back? If it's, I'm sorry, it's so difficult to explain this. And the space-time continuum, when dimensions are folded, sometimes time gets warped and things are different, and time is always relative depending upon speed and other things. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm very excited to go there now. But do you ever wish to leave?
As somebody who has been through so much, to be given a place like this that I can call home, and I can help others get through those moments that I've been through, I don't think so.
They breathe deep and they sigh. You have a gift. That's the closest thing that I've ever heard or seen of pure contentment. You found something that I've never seen another individual find. So I don't blame you for staying here. I don't blame you for not wanting to leave. If I were the same, I would do the same. I'm not trying to lead a horse to water and force it to drink. Forgive me. Perhaps it's all those years of pulling prisoners out of bars and other things. You don't need a savior. And you're not really the savior, you are so fascinating. I must know what makes you tick. Can I have some of your blood?
You know, the last person that asked me that, I took that axe, and he points the thing over the shoulder. He says, and I took him in two.
Oh, I'm sorry terribly sorry if I've greatly offended you.
No,
it's for
no
those
offense.
sciencey things that I was talking about before.
Right.
But I totally understand your thing. I am an alchemist. I dabble in potions and all these other things, and I have a fascination for everything that doesn't exist here. But yes, so I was just curious if you are just what you are, and I don't have my equipment here. So if I go back, I'm sorry, I am rambling. It's fine.
Seems you have a purpose now.
I think he straightens, or they straighten for a moment. I believe so. Even if I can't change what has happened, I have many, many years left to figure this out. If I send someone to you, can you receive them?
That all depends.
They must have a story for you.
They must have a story. And they must want to change themselves in some way.
Damn it, Caliban, you are right. I'll be going digging up your books again. Very well. Can I take some of this to go? I'm quite famished.
Of course. Take as much as you'd like.
Do I need to tell you another story for...
No, I have a feeling that this won't be the last time that we've met.
I owe you. How about that? Deal?
Sounds like a plan. I've never had to do on somebody owing me something, but...
Consider it a favor. A boon, as you will. An excuse, like leaving my favorite tunic at your house. Just so I can see you again.
Maybe one day.
Wonderful. 'Tis hope, then. And I think they'd rattle their fingers and keep thinking as they reach into they kind of put their hand on the doorknob and they reach into their gambus and kind of instinctually, habitually looking for the thing that's always been there every time they exit a door or go from one place to another to make sure it's there and it hasn't been lost. And it's not there, and they push the door open.
And as you push the door open, it's strange. Time shift, rotational shift again.
Sure.
And now you're laying on the floor of that ruin, quiet.
I think I look over the edge. Bloody dreadful fall. And I walk in the direction of that worn piece of grass that's perhaps maybe 50 yards away, and I wrap my gambeson tighter around myself through the whipping wind. And I stop to stand by it for a moment. I look down. I reach down. I snatch what looks like a clasp or some sort of brooch to pull the moss off of. And I fix it back to my waist. And I continue walking.
And as you continue walking, the scene starts to fade as our adventurer drifts off to his new adventure. And we close the tavern for the evening. All right. So
that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had somebody super interested in the tavern keeper being like,
I've had a couple
people.
How are you? I've had a couple people. Who are you? What are you? And
anybody ever offered to be like, do you want to get out of here?
I've never had the offer of wanting to get out of here yet. I have had, offer, can I come back? Is there ways to get back? Those types of things. And he, every adventurer we've brought in has puzzled the party with something. I don't know what it is ever, but every adventurer we've brought in has been like, okay, what about this part? What about this part? People started asking his name, and he's
of course, because everybody's craving that lore dump. Everybody wants that.
Yeah. The problem is that the amount of time that the barkeep has been alive, he's forgotten his name. He's forgotten the original creator of the tavern.
He just is.
He just
He's
is
extant. Yeah.
He has no end, no beginning. He just is. And it's great because
force like gravity.
Legitimately, he is an interdimensional tavern that pops up whenever it's needed. And
it's like Dave the Street or whatever his name is in the Marvel or the DC thing, where it's like a whole street that is alive, that is conscious, that lives and that teleports from place to place wherever people like marginalized people or people who are like being persecuted like need a place to chill, and it just is there. It communicates with like street signs and like police like construction signs, and it's just always there, and nobody knows where it came from or how it is, but it's sentient.
So as time grows, and it's interesting because this is the one thing that we've had as almost a consistency, is that sooner or later the tavern keeper, there is going to be something that happens at the tavern. The tavern keeper is going to call the patrons, a group of patrons back.
And who will hear the call? That's gonna be so much fun.
And then that will be most likely either early next year or late this year. Will be our first actual tavern adventure, where 4 of our players who have built characters from the tavern will come back to help the tavern keeper with something that he needs taken care of, or one of his constituents of friends that he's made friends with.
You're like, hey, I need to ask you a favor for the first time.
For the first time. And normally, I've been racking my brain like how this is going to work. But we're definitely playing with the idea. And these will probably be quarterly at most, maybe at once, twice a year at max, or at minimum. And we're looking at probably quarterly. But we're playing around with the idea because the guests, I love having the patrons. We love having people coming in and watching us, but it is the guests who are getting hooked on the tavern. It's not.
What is it? Is it being powered by a power source that needs recharging every once in a while? Is it can it only go it's like Doctor Who's toll booth, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And it's funny because I've never I finally started watching Doctor Who like 2 weeks ago.
Really?
I don't even watch
What season?
it.
What season?
I think.
Who's the first?
I don't even know now.
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. Yeah. So 13th Doctor. So
yes.
So you didn't start for the first one when they rebooted it with
No, we started, I think it was season 5 or 6.
Oh, from the new ones, yeah.
I
was a big fan. Me and my partner are huge fans. I went all the way back and watched the black and white ones that are still had records of way back when with William Hartnell, and wow,
that's awesome.
Everything's consistent pretty much, so they did a pretty good job.
But without knowing all that, like this character has been created, and some backstory for people who have been listening for a while. The Tavern Keeper was actually a character. It was the first character that I had ever reached to level 15, and this character is dear to my heart because this character was somebody I created while I was deployed, when I was in the military, and we played for 6 months straight with a cast of 11 people, and it was insane. We played 6-hour games 3 days a week, and we built a lot of story around my friend's world. But there's 2 characters that really developed in that. It was my character and then an artificer named Arcturus, who created what we called the Tinderbox, which was a flying tavern. And then we have, and my brain is not clicking right now which is part of the reason, is we had a wizard in the group who thought process was can we make the tavern forever? And that's where this whole thing stemmed from. This is the story continues to grow. It's crazy because every little bit somebody's asking more about the tavern keeper, where he's from, where he's coming, what he's doing, what's his plan.
You keep a list of all the things that you have.
I have some stuff, yeah.
So you have like an inventory? Because
Yeah,
I can absolutely see it being like, this is a problem happening. You reach into your bag and you're like, I have this one thing. This will work for this thing.
We've only had 3 or 4 people leave stuff. So it's one of them actually left a familiar that is floating around the tavern.
What was it?
It was kind of like a Cthulhu cat, is what we talked about.
Eldritch Spawn Cat.
Yes, Eldritch Spawn Cat. It was interesting. We had somebody leave a brooch from a Griffin Rider. That was another one that somebody left a couple weeks ago. I have a couple other items that I'd have to pull up my listing, but
my headcanon for this is like looking at it, it's like the background of all the bits and baubles, just like everywhere the tavern, it's just all this thing, like a jigsaw puzzle image of art that's just all that busy stuff, or like the background for a lo-fi and chill soundtrack. It's just all there. Everything's easy.
Like I said, hopefully
Studio Ghibli, everything.
And it's great because the way the tavern works is that you don't see those empty blocks, because that's not what your eyes are catching. Your eyes are catching all those tales, and it's built for that, so that's how everything is written. That the tales are written on the stones themselves, and there's thousands of tales. I mean, these is just the ones that we told in this in the stream, but there's thousands of tales that have been told at the tavern, but there's always, for some reason, there's always room for another, and it's kind of the ever growing of this place. One day, hopefully, this will come down, and it'll be something that we can do at conventions. We can go to other places like that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'll be at Gen Con this year, and I'll be walking around as the tavern keeper, and I'm looking forward to, running up to people that are randomly in costume.
Right, yeah.
And kind of be like, and give them the rundown of like, you're here, you're in this weird place. Can we sit down and have a drink? And then it's ready to go, right? And you try to see who you can like pawn off to do this. And
it's always fun to have like a guest star too, having like somebody who's been in the tavern before, being like, hey, look, I've been here before, this is what we got to do, or yada and have that type of thing. I love the idea of you having a mission with the tavern at some point, being like, the tavern is in peril, come help, I call upon you, those who have told stories, or whatever it happens to be.
We've really talked about doing this after we launched the idea of the guests coming in and actually creating characters. And the one thing I didn't mention, because I get so wrapped up with the story itself, we're gonna have to close down here in just a couple minutes. But one thing we've done is, if you want the character created, our artist actually puts the character to life and actually draws the character out.
Cool.
It's a short fee. I send it to all the guests. But what also you can do is you can hop over to our Patreon, and for $3 a month, any character that's ever created, you get the character portrait and you get the character token that you can then use in your world. And you can go back and read those. And if you want to listen to the character itself, so you can kind of piece those pieces together. My dream is to see this happen, where somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, on episode 91 or 93, which is this one, this character was used here, and I brought them into my world and used them this way. Like that's my dream, is to watch all these characters that have been.
My brain is already spinning about
somewhere else.
Well, like dimensional travel is big in our world, and like moving through continuums and stuff. So my brain is already spinning about someone like tearing through and trying to go somewhere else, but passing through the tavern for like a minute, or being like, hey, we can like short rest here for like a second, but we gotta go,
right,
or something. And
so it's interesting though, because one thing. And I'm kind of taking a little bit of a spoiler away, is if you accidentally get to the tavern, which is very, very impossible in my opinion.
Sure.
Everything I've thought through, there's no way without having a story to tell, but you can't leave the tavern without telling a story either.
Right.
So if somebody comes here and is just like,
I'm not doing it.
Like, I'm not doing this,
they're
I'm
trapped.
Leaving. They're going to realize that they're going to walk through a continuum that's just going to continually throw them back into the tavern until the tavern until you tell the story.
What a great way, what a great prison to try to re-educate somebody, being like, hey, come on, you're gonna have to be amicable or you can't leave.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's been a joy, and I hate to say that this is the end, because we're already over an hour just on the tail.
Yeah.
Normally I
Sorry.
cut the tail off. No, you're good. We don't cut the tail off in 30 minutes, but you are not the first person to start pushing that bar. Everybody is continually wanting to tell more and to find out more and hear more.
I'm a forever DM. It comes with the territory at that point,
right? So,
all right. Well, I'll just do plugs real quick then.
Yeah, throw a plug out real quick.
So yeah, we're Dice of Ages. TJ, I'm the GM for Dice of Ages. You check out the Argent Flame, which is, we try to do it every other Sunday on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We stream on there, and then we put the VODs, and we edit them and put the VODs up on YouTube. So go ahead and check out that and subscribe there. We have the C3, which is Campaign 3, which is another live campaign that we have. Was set in the Feywild, and now they're moving through dimensions and time. It's weird. And we have our virtual campaign, Baker's Dozen. They are all in the same world. One's like pirates, one's like, intrigue and clandestine, and others like dimensional travel and fae and stuff like that. So there's a little flavor for everybody. We also run an Etsy shop. I run it mostly on my lonesome out of the garage with like way too many printers. We 3D print a bunch of cool terrain and buildings of stuff that is featured usually in the stream. We have a bunch of cams that show combat cams and different angles and stuff, and I hand paint it, and we do a lot of set work for that. And so you can actually get that stuff on the Etsy shop, and we're constantly updating it, whether it be buildings, minis, or whatever. We do custom stuff too. So yeah, help support us with that, so we keep making some cool stuff. We're hoping to be at Genghis Con in Colorado and Denver this coming year for, I believe it will be Genghis Con 46.
I think so.
And but Dice of Ages will have a table there with a couple of our other partners that do some cool mini painting and art. We have a couple artists that do some really, really great character art. I believe their information is up on our website at diceofages.com if you want some really cool character art. They do commissions. And so you can catch us there if you like, or catch us on Etsy, or just watch us on YouTube, Facebook, all that stuff. We're on all the social medias, TikTok and everything. I try to do skits, but that's it.
That's kind of where we're at. So once again, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us at the Tavern. TJ, it was a blast to walk through this character with you. I have a feeling that we have other Dice of Age characters coming on over the next couple months. So I'm excited to
canonically coming back.
Yeah. Yep. Showing up with different characters and different people. And that's kind of why I'm not completely sad.
This isn't goodbye.
Wrap this up, because this isn't goodbye. This is just see you later. But
happy to do it anytime.
We are Tabletop Misfits. We are right now variety stream. We're running games. We're running D&D. We're running random one shots, and of course you have the Tavern here where we tell stories and we hang out with cool people. So you can find us all the time at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays and Sundays. We might be opening up on Monday, so keep your eyes out for that. Cool. We're also going to be on, of course, Facebook, any social media whatsoever. And all of our VODs are launched over on YouTube. So you can check us out every week, at least twice a week. Please, if you can, make sure you give us a follow or subscribe, depending on what channel it is. And hopefully we see you next week or Sunday.
I almost forgot. I didn't tell you the name of the Etsy shop. It's called Prince of Ages, not Dice of Ages. Yeah, Dice of Ages. I'm so sorry. But thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of time.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Closing down the Tavern for the evening. Have a wonderful night.
Take care.